for question 2. Study source T. Is this source as evidence of youth culture of the 1960s? Well, there's 4 things that you need to take into account. What might the source be useful for? Why might it be limited in any particular way? You've also got to look at the provenance and consider your own knowledge. So the first thing that strikes me as significant for this source is that it's from a newspaper, and also it's from 1964. And we know what was going on the bank holiday weekend in 1964 with young people. Right, what's it useful for? Well, it's useful for showing us about that particular bank holiday weekend in 1964. And we know the mods and the rockers went to the beaches in the bank holiday weekend and they caused a lot of trouble. And we also know that that trouble was made, well, a big thing was made of it in the newspapers. So it's useful for showing us a snapshot of 1964. And if we link a bit of our own knowledge in here, as I already have, we know that the teenagers did this sort of thing in beaches like Margate, or on beaches like Margate in 1964 on the bank holiday weekend. However, one limitation that many of you found is that this only shows us about that particular aspect of youth culture. So it misses out all the different youth subcultures. Just to pick one example, teddy boys. And it also only shows us a snapshot of what happened on that particular day, even with the mods and the rockers. Furthermore, if we bring a bit of our knowledge in here, to do with the provenance, this is not a good representation of everything that went on over that bank holiday Monday. The majority of teenagers were not fighting and did not come to cause trouble. In fact, we even know from our own knowledge that there's incidents where newspaper journalists paid young people to cause a disturbance so they could take a photograph. So there's no way of telling whether this is one of those photographs or not. So yeah, those are the things that you can think about. Useful for showing us a snapshot of what happened that bank holiday weekend. An iconic point in the teenagers from Britain during the 1960s. Limited because it only shows us that. You know, there's a whole span of years and a whole different set of youth subcultures. And there's also the people who didn't belong specifically to the mods or the rockers or any other youth subculture that's totally unrepresented here. It's in a newspaper. Newspapers, well, they blew this all out of proportion, of course, in the 1960s because it sold. So anytime some youth gangs got into some sort of trouble, it was straight there on the front page, but it ignored all the hundreds of thousands of teenagers who weren't causing trouble. And our own knowledge should tell us a lot about this particular event, and you can refer to your sheet if you need to. So how would I do it? Well, let me just show you here. I'd do a paragraph on useful for, paragraph on useful against. Something to note is some questions might ask you about 2 sources, in which case I'd do a paragraph on each, but I'd write about what the source is useful for, what are they not so useful for, and I'd have a little bit of comparison within my paragraphs before a conclusion on the most useful. So if I asked you about 1 source, as this question did, you just do paragraph on useful for, paragraph useful against. If it's about 2 sources, you can see what you've got to do there. And that's for how useful is the source. Now you're probably wondering why I was laughing my head off. That is because my wife came in to stare at me whilst I was making the video with the express purpose of trying to make me laugh, and as you can see, it worked. But I thought I'd leave it in because it might amuse you a bit.